Shiny things. Let's talk soft plastics. Now, I've been using soft plastics for ever since I can remember, to be honest with you. Ever since I was 18, so we're going back quite a few years. I went to America for 3 months and absolutely hammered the Bass Pro Shops over there and brought a load of SPs back with me. But over the years, obviously over here in the UK, the choice is absolutely mind-boggling. There's absolutely loads, every single colour you can possibly imagine, and variations on a theme. I'm just going to run you through some of the lures that I use and I've had great success with in recent years with the bass. Like I say, the ones I've got laid out in front of me here is pretty much what I will take on a day's bass fishing when I know I'm going to be using soft plastics. You can fish these in shallow water. I've had absolutely amazing success fishing really deep water, sort of 120 feet for bass, using this sort of gear. So let's have a look at what I've got. Well, okay, so the old original red gills and Eddystone eels, very similar, absolutely brilliant. They're going to catch fish for years and years and years to come. They were the originals, the first that sort of started as fishing with artificial sand eels, and they hold God knows how many records for cullfish, pollock, cod, ling, all sorts of species. It's not just bass that you can catch on these types of lures. So red gills, always carry some of them with me. The new Evos, they're pretty damn good. They've got a little weight in the head, they work really well. I moved on from red gills when sidewinders came out, and I really started getting hooked on them. This is the latest generation, the rattlebacks. They've got a rattle inside them. They're moulded onto a lead head with a hook moulded in. Absolutely brilliant lures. They work extremely well for the bass. Good thing about these sorts of lures as well is that you can cast them. You can cast them a fair way, so they work off the shore as well as off a boat. So we've got those. One of my favourites at the moment, and has been for a few years now, is the Della Shad 2. Now this is a fixed lure. It's basically a lead head with a separate body that you just thread on like you would do a ragworm, and it sits on there like that. And these come in various sizes, various body colours. I've got some black and silver glitter, look a bit like coalfish. You've got some real leery ones as well, pinks, pumpkin. They all work on their day, but I've found this blue, hence why there's a lot of blue in this box. The blue colour really does work. Like I say, you've got different size lead heads. That's a 30 gram one, that's a 20 gram. They cast really well, and if you're fishing in deep water, they get down fairly quickly. So they're worth having a look at. Here we go, check this out. You should know what one of these is. Of course, it's a Savage Gear sand eel. This really is a go-to lure. I've caught bass and pollock and cod all over the country in all manner of situations, whether I've been deep vertical jigging. I've even trolled these with really good success. Savage Gear sand eels, really, they are superb. They're made from quite a tough sort of latex material. It takes a while for the fish to rip through them, and you can buy spare bodies, cheap as chips, and you can buy the lead heads on their own. Like, again, very similar. It's a separate body with a lead jig head. You just thread it through, out through the top, and boom, there you go. Really simple to do. They're brilliant lures, absolutely brilliant. If I'm vertical jigging in relatively shallow water, say over a reef or some rocks or something like that, at slack tide, the Della Piccolo works extremely well. Now you've got to see one of these in the water to see how they work, but me just shaking that gives you a rough idea of how soft and how flexible that body is. Yeah, they work really well. Just slight lifts of the rod tip, let it sink down, lift the rod tip, let it sink down, and it looks exactly like a sand eel, darting all over the place. Really good bits of kit they are. Okay, more recently we've got the good old fish black minnow. Now these things have pretty much taken the lure fishing scene by storm. They've proved themselves time and time again, extremely effective. So a couple of points about these lures. It's got an articulated jig head, which basically means the jig head can move independently of the body of the lure. It's weedless, so as you can see there, the hook actually sits in a small recess in the top of the latex body, which is really soft, I hasten to add. And the idea is a fish comes up, grabs it, and as it grabs it, because the latex is so soft, the hook pops out and hooks it in the mouth. So you just push the hook down so it sits flush to the top of the body inside the recess like that. Cast it out. They're great casting lures. They're also really good for vertical jigging. They're great for casting, letting it sink to the bottom and retrieving. You can even troll with them. I've trolled with these before, again with great success. But yeah, the fact that they're weedless really does help when you cast it into kelp, cast it into rocks. You can bump these things off of rocks and it's not going to get snagged up. So yeah, fish black minnows, I mean there's all sorts of sizes. There's inshore and offshore versions, 200 gram heads down to sort of 10 gram heads, various sizes, loads of different colours. But yeah, every bass angler worth his salt should have some black minnows in his tackle box. The latest creation from fish is the crazy sand eel. Now again, this is a two-part lure, but with a fixed jig head, not an articulated jig head. Let's just get these out and show you. You can buy all the bodies separately and the jig heads separately. Just like other lures, there's a little hole in the end of the body there. You just push it through. There's a guide on the top to show you where the hook point should exit. And there you go. That's better. Spot on. Now look at that. Just like the piccolo, really soft latex. And I've got to say with these, they are very soft and you are going to get through some bodies. You can buy repair glue to help glue them back together, but they are deadly effective. You know, you don't mind losing a couple of bodies and spending £5 or £6 on a packet of bodies for a day's fishing when you're catching bass, and they do work extremely well. They're really effective. The fact that they're so soft and flexible means that a bass can just literally inhale the whole thing in one go, and that hook's going to find a hold no problem. So yeah, the crazy sand eels are, again, I won't go anywhere without them now. Absolutely brilliant. Now my old mate Pete Cook down at Tronics Fishing, him and George Cunningham, a couple of years ago started work on this, the Arctic eel. The clue's in the name, Arctic eel. It's got an articulated jig head, similar to the black minnow. This one, as you can hear, it's got a rattle in the tail. And I don't know if you can pick that up on there, but you can see where the hook comes through the body, sits down. Again, it's weedless, sits in the recess there, in the groove. Like I say, you can cast these all day long. They do various weights of heads. They do an inshore and an offshore version. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Caught loads of fish on those this summer. So that's pretty much it for soft plastics, apart from one last thing. I never ever go anywhere without a packet of these. Kona Selects, made by Gravel. As far as I know, Ville's mail order sell these. This is where I get mine from. These have caught me loads and loads of fish. There you go. That's what it looks like. It's got a flat top, ridged body underneath. It's got eyes on it, but I'll show you what I do. I'll get myself a little jig head. I've got loads in there. Let's try one of them. What do? Is where those ridges are, I actually pinch it, pull the head off, just to give me a little bit of a thicker body there. And just like some of the other lures that I've showed you, rig it up like so, with the hook sticking out the top. Again, these are really soft, really flexible, and I like fishing these when I'm fishing in sort of 2-3 foot of water over a sandbar, and when the tide's coming in, cast it up the tide and let the tide literally just drag this across the sand. It looks really, really natural, and it has picked me up a lot of bass in very, very, very shallow water, just bouncing one of these across the bottom. Like I say, really soft. Bass comes up, inhales it, the whole thing just curls up and bends up really, really easily into the bass's mouth, and that hook finds a hold. So yeah, Kona Selects, well worth having a packet of them in your tackle box. That's about it really for soft plastics. That's all I use, just that selection there. All that's going to go in a tackle box, and I can chop and change throughout the day depending on the situation, whether I'm fishing in deep water, shallow water, over rocks, kelp, that sort of stuff. That covers all angles. Let's talk metal. Now, I'm not talking Iron Maiden or Slayer, although I love them both. I'm talking about metal jigs, metal lures for bass. Very, very effective, especially in deeper water. This here, the Yanmar Flasher, commercial bass fisherman's favourite. Over in the Channel Islands especially, over in France, they use these to great effect. It's basically a perk, it's slightly shaped, slightly moulded, loads of holographic stuff on there, really, really flash. Excellent lures these are for bass, really, really, really good. You can fish these when you're fishing for sand eels. If you clip one of them to the bottom of your sand eel feathers, then 9 times out of 10, if there's a bass there, you'll hook a bass on this while you're reeling up your bait, so that's worth noting. They're pretty good. Another one of my little favourites is the Heart Boney. Now, these are only small little jigs, but I've caught bass over wrecks on these, just fishing them straight up vertical jigging with them. I've caught all manner of fish on them, to be fair, gurnards, wrasse, all sorts. 40 grams. They cast really well. If you want to cast and retrieve them, that works well. If you can see bass on the surface, cast one of these at them, whip it across, you'll catch fish like that. Like I say, only sort of 30-40 grams these ones are. Really, really good for fishing on light tackle. Slow jigging. Now, that has really sort of come in this season, this year just passed. Slow jigging has really taken off big time. I'm going to cut to some video in a minute where you'll see me talking to Pete Cook from Tronics Fishing after a day's fishing that we'd had out, and I think we had something like 12-13 species in the day just on this piece of metal. Believe it or not, we had dogfish, we had gurnards, we had mackerel, we had cod, pollock, bass, all sorts, all manner of species. Slow jigging, okay, so it's not like your traditional perk where you've got a treble hook on the end. These things are designed with assist hooks. Now, you can fish 1 or 2 assist hooks that basically come on a piece of cord and they attach to a split ring at the very top of the jig. That's where you connect this jig to the end of your leader or the end of your main line via a lure clip. So you clip that on like that, and they drop down. They're heavier towards the bottom end, so they drop like a stone. But the way you work these is there's 2 or 3 different ways. You can lift the rod slowly and wind as you're doing it. You can work it that way, so it sort of flutters up. The way I like to fish them is short, sharp jigs of the rod. As soon as you get to there, you drop the rod tip really quick, which allows this thing to flutter back down. Like I say, very, very effective. These assist hooks really do the business. And when you're fishing over the rough stuff, you don't tend to get hooked up or snagged as much as you do when you're using a treble hook on the bottom of the lure. You can literally bounce that as soon as you feel it touch the bottom. If you're quick, you can pull it back up and get yourself out of danger. Like I say, these ones here are made by Tronics Fishing on their HGO brand, and they're actually called slow jigs. They come in a load of different colours, load of different sizes. They also produce this shaped lure called an Oasi, similar to the basic slow jig, but these, as you can see, are a lot broader. They're a lot heavier, 150 grams, 200 grams I think they make them up to. And again, you fish these exactly the same way. They're designed to go down really quick. Once they're down, as you bring the rod tip up, they flutter back down again and flutter back up. So let's cut to myself and Pete talking about how these things actually work, and then we'll show you a bit of live action with some bass being caught on them. Well, this is Pete Cook from Tronics Fishing. We've just got back in after a pretty epic day's fishing, really, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite enjoyable.
Yeah, we've had 12 different species, which you'll see on the video, and we've been primarily fishing with the new HCO slow jigs. Now, you designed these, didn't you, mate?
Between me and George,
yeah. George Cunningham from Tronics Fishing. Now, as you can see here, we've had a good old go. We lost a few, didn't we?
We did,
on the wrecks, but yeah, no, we've given them a real good go. That was one of my favourites today. That one there, and the holographic one. I'm just amazed at how effective these things are.
Yeah, they are.
You know, if you go back, what, 10 years, it was all speed jigging.
Absolutely.
You know, everyone was banging on about speed jigging, and to be fair, we ain't got the species here for speed jigs.
No.
You know, I know there was a few pollock caught, a few cod, a few bass, but they weren't working them like they're supposed to be worked.
No.
You're supposed to crank the hell out of them things, you know, for amberjacks, tuna, that sort of thing. This is a completely different kettle of fish. Yeah, these are meant to be fished slow. You know, it's a lift of the rod tip, let it flutter down.
Yeah, that's it. Or another way you can do it is literally you just short steady turns and winding the handle, because what you're doing, you're pitching the rod. Yeah. And then every time you pitch the rod and the rod drops again, it's fluttering. Yeah. So obviously, and because it's working slow, it's in the kill zone longer. Hence why you pick up gurnards, wrasse, dogfish.
It's been mental. Yeah. You know, plus all your usuals that you'd expect, like your cod, pollock, bass. Yeah. You know, it has been absolutely insane.
Jigging in general, it's taken sort of, you know, it's been spun around, and you know, there's so many different variations now. But I think slow jigging, because of the amount of species that it does attract, is going to sort of go ahead further and say speeding and stuff like that. You know,
totally. I mean, it's the beauty of this method is that you've got a direct line to the fish. You've got direct contact. There's no extra lead involved. You know, I was fishing most of the day with an 80 gram, and then when the tide got ripping, I was on a 120 gram.
And you know, it's worth noting as well, that's in 250 foot of water. On some of the marks
on a big tide.
On a 5.3 metre.
Yeah. So you know, we're fishing ultralight rods, 20-pound braid. Absolutely brilliant sport. Now, there's a couple of two or three different styles in here, aren't there?
Yeah, we've got that's the Owazi, or converted in Japanese is Slowman. Right. So yeah, we've got that one there, which is the heavier version.
Yeah, that's 200 gram.
150 and 200s. Okay. Pre-rigged with 5/0 assists. And then you've got the slow jig, which is currently 60 grams, 80 grams, and 120. Cool. And I think we've got those in 5 different colours. Yeah. But yeah, sort of when me and George were going through which colours we wanted, we just went for like the obvious fish catchers. Yeah. You know, your oranges, your pinks, your lasers. Yeah. You know,
and the silver.
The silver, yeah, and then you've got sort of like your laser silver as well, which I think we've completely decimated today.
Yeah, but that was one of the real big fish catches, wasn't it? The laser.
You've got your excuse the bird's nest. You've got like your pink awashies. Yeah. Absolute classic colour for bass, but then you've got your pink underside as well.
Cod love a bit of pink.
Oh, cod love a bit of pink. They have done today. So
excellent news. Well, take a look in your local tackle shop for these. The HCO slow jigs and how do you pronounce that?
Owazi.
Owazi jigs. Yeah. And yeah, get on them because they are deadly effective. I mean, I can't wait to get back out and have another play with these, mate, to be fair.
Yeah, me too. It's been fantastic.
Thank you very much, buddy.
Cheers,
great day.
Good to have you down.
Cheers, bud. Here you can actually see a bass hit my slow jig on the drop. I've already wound it up about 15 turns, just pumping and dropping, pumping and dropping. All I'm doing here is just letting it free fall. and boom, there you go, bass on. It's quite often the case when you're slow jigging like this that the bass will follow the lure up as you're winding up, and as soon as you let it flutter down, give it slack line and let it go, then it just hits it and engulfs it. It's an amazing sensation, I can tell you.
Straight down and away. Good to see.
Hello, he's woken up a bit.
Hello.
Fish seem to be on the back end of the wreck.
Yeah, they're right off the back end, aren't they?
I think when it does snack, it might go balmy. I wonder if they're all going to hide in there. There's one at the what other colours have we got, Pete? That's not...
Dude, help yourself a sec. Just take what you want.
Stay fairly light. Good spot on the light here.
Great, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. It's not even particularly a big fish, it's just a lively one. Where is he?
The net drop.
There's a bass.
Bass.
Yes.
Whoa.
Right, it's coming down the side of it. Well done, Mr. Barrow.
Wow.
Well done.
Bassy Barham does it again.
Just about 3 minutes ago, I want a bass in that box.
There is my dinner. Well, we've had it all today. We've had the cod, pollock, gurnards,
Dogfish.
wrasse,
Bass.
and now bass. Look at that. That's perfect eating size, that is.